So it's rumored to be a weak quarterback class. Drew Lock is one of those names being mentioned and floated around as a first-round pick. Should that be the case? We're going to explore the Missouri quarterback next in the 2019 NFL Draft Profiles right here on Dynasty League Football.
The NFL Draft Profile Series, NFL Prospects. Break it down, let's get it. People's pen and the gridiron scholar. Time to do it major. Let's see who running the field. Let's analyze the data. Yeah, let's go.
This year's quarterback class is labeled as a weak one. I happen to agree with that label, but there are, because of the need for the position, going to be guys that get vaulted and elevated into the first round and into those premium and premier picks. John, we're looking at Drew Lock today from Missouri. Being rumored that John Elway loves this guy. Broncos are sitting there with the top 10 pick. So this guy is going to get drafted somewhere at probably a higher rate than what I think he should be. There's a lot to like with this guy. There's a lot to his production, but there are also a lot of flaws, for lack of a better word. When you study the Missouri Tiger quarterback who's now about to enter the league, what do you like? What do you dislike? And is he a guy that you would spend a first-round pick on if you were an NFL GM?
Right away, I'm going to tell you, looking at my film study and my profile, he is not worth the top 10 pick in the NFL draft this year. But clearly, demand exceeds supply. So he might creep up in there, but I think it might hurt a franchise and put them back a couple of years behind the eight ball. Here's what I see in Drew Lock. First, I played CFF fantasy football for years, and for the last 3 years, he's been on my dynasty team. I have seen him play live at least 10 times on TV, so I'm very, very familiar with this prospect. I also was lucky enough to see him live play the UConn Huskies last year at the Rent. He completely dominated the Huskies in the Tigers' 52-12 victory. He threw for 377 yards and 5 touchdowns. But let's be careful. The UConn Huskies are one of the all-time worst secondaries in the history of college football the last 2 seasons. So that doesn't give us a very good perspective of this young man. But I was impressed watching him live. He has a very decorated career. He was a 2017 All-SEC first-team quarterback, and this year he was the All-SEC second-team quarterback. He set the single-season conference record with 44 passing touchdowns 2 years ago. So he's a very accomplished player in a very difficult conference of college football. He concluded his career in the SEC second all-time with 12,193 passing yards and third in passing touchdowns with 99. But I've had to look at him closely, and anyone who follows me knows there are 5 categories that I look at when I analyze quarterbacks. And I like to have elite prospects at least achieve 4 of my 5 benchmarks. Drew Lock only achieves 1 of the 5 benchmarks, which is a concern. He exceeds the threshold in games played. He has had 50 games played for the Tigers. That's the only one. But when you look at passing efficiency, completion percentage, yards per attempt, and touchdown to interception ratio, Drew Lock falls far short of what I'm looking for benchmark. So there are concerns from a production standpoint in college. So now let's look quickly at the scouting report, Andy. Prototypical size at 6'3" and 223 pounds. He looks the part athletically. He has NFL arm talent. He throws tight spirals with lots of zip. I saw him warm up against UConn, and I saw him the whole game. He was terrific. He has a strong arm, and he stretches the defenses vertically with the flick of a wrist. He is a very strong player, and he takes the punishment, and he remains focused. So I do like this young man. But let's look at some of the weaknesses that he has. Sporadically, he has very poor footwork, which leads to misplaced throws. He makes some questionable decisions when under duress in the pocket. And this is most obvious. If you look at the games played against group of 5 opponents and then games played against the SEC, when the SEC can get after him with the front 5 or, front 4, front 7 on the blitz, he's a completely different quarterback. He also steers down the primary target far too often, and he does not make full field progression reads. So that bothers me. He's not a natural anticipatory passer. He waits until the receiver uncovers, which is going to get him into trouble in the NFL. Right now, I have a round 2 grade on Drew Lock. I think he's a combination of Drew Bledsoe and Blaine Gabbert. If this was the 1990s, he would clearly be a top 5 player in the draft, but we're looking at 2018. I have him as a second-round pick. I think he's being overvalued by NFL and the scouting world right now, Andy. Now, you saw him at the Senior Bowl. What do you think?
I did get to see him up close and personal, and I like a lot of what you said. You mentioned the arm strength and mentioned Drew Bledsoe in that same breath. I wouldn't say it's quite that strong, but he does have the strength in his arm to make all of the NFL throws, which is why he's being projected where he is. I think, as I've mentioned earlier, he gets bumped up because of the competition for the 2019 class at the position. But there is stuff to like. The problem is he tries to, as Matt Miller would say, get too cute with it sometimes. Like, try to be too Pat Mahomes-ish, if you will, where it's just not his game. Just make the natural traditional throw, and he'd probably have better success. He's not really much of a runner. He's not much of a scrambler. He is a pocket guy, but he never played under center at Missouri. He was supposed to have switched with the offensive coordinator change from Josh Heupel to Derek Dooley, but that never materialized, and he wound up staying in shotgun. He does seem to have poise in the pocket, but he doesn't have great pocket awareness. He seems to have much better accuracy in his short game than in his long game, and I'm not really sure that he has that great accuracy when he's going 20 yards or more down the field. I've seen him make his receivers wait far too often for the ball to come to them as opposed to hitting them in stride. He tries to aim it too much. I do think he can process and check down quickly, but there are so many questions and limitations that in any normal class, I like the day 2 grade. I'd say even maybe more of a day 3 with the potential for a day 2, but he's probably going to get bumped up to round 1, and it's just kind of a symbol of what this year's class is. So I'm not in love with Drew Lock, but I'm not totally against it either. He does have the potential. He's got the prerequisite size for the position. He's got the college production. He played in the toughest of conferences. So all the potential is there for him to be a starting quarterback in this league, but he's not somebody that I would feel comfortable building my franchise around. He's more of a guy I would take to be a backup, and hopefully everything materializes and he can process it and I can hand the reins over to him. But to draft him and expect him to come in, especially the way the game's being played now, I as you mentioned, he'll make the defense pay for a mistake, but there are not going to be as many mistakes in the NFL from the defense, which means he's going to be the one committing the majority of them. What do you think about Drew Lock, though? Is he a quarterback that you're excited about if your team drafted him? If you're a Broncos fan saying Elway does, make good on his love affair for Drew Lock, would you be excited to have him as the future of your franchise? Leave it in the comments below. Let us know. And make sure you tune in to all the players we're covering, 45 in total, right here, the 2019 NFL Draft Profiles.